I don't mind paying $450. I don't mind paying $80. There has to be a value. There has to be everything I ever wanted in this game, right? Not just, oh, it's the new best thing. You like Nintendo, you're going to bug your parents about it, and they're going to buy it for you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 65 of the Sandbox.Space weekly podcast. I am your host, Chris, joined as always by Baby Girl, who's in my lap, Pumpkin, who is over here about to fall off the table, I think. I'm gonna go 50-50 on the wager on that one. And then, of course, every week we have a special guest. This week's guest is AbdallahSmash, content creator from YouTube, previous GDEX friend and family who will also be coming this year again. Is that correct? I think we've got that worked
That's
out.
right. I'm
Awesome.
looking for it. Take me back to High Street.
Nice. Yeah. So I just saw actually you were recently you did the Midwest Classic, Midwest Gaming Classic. How was that? I've heard that's a good show. I've never gone.
Oh, it's so cool. Like I'm used to GalaxyCon shows, which is like a mixture of pop culture,
Hmm.
like 95%, comics, other pop culture things, and like 5% gaming.
Yeah.
Whereas this script was completely flipped. Midwest Gaming was all gaming all over the place. And it was honestly just so cool to have that change of pace where it was more of my people, right?
Yeah.
My exact fandoms. So it was amazing. Loved the show. Had a lot of arcades there. I think the vendor show floor was really cool. That treasure hunt aspect of trying to
Hmm.
find whatever video game you're looking for on there is totally there. And the whole concept of like haggling with
Oh yeah,
them.
yeah. You got to get your
Oh my gosh,
barter
man.
skill up.
That's right. I'm like, all right, dude, this sells online for 70, man. There's no way I'm paying 100.
Hmm.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it was cool.
Yeah, this year we're teaming up with CorgsCon for GDEX, so we're gonna have a vendor area this year as well. So hopefully you can find some cool takeaways. But I'm excited to have you back. It's been a few years. I think we'll probably get you involved in Mario Kart again and maybe a few other fun shenanigans. So we'll let folks know about that. I was super excited to actually have you on because your whole shtick, your whole thing is Nintendo. And I'm sure you're aware, you might have heard that we have a new console coming out here in what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Um, do you already have one? Or are you looking down at one?
Oh, I mean, I have like a model replica
Okay,
of a Switch 2 right over here, which with the magnetic little Joy-Con things. So
nice.
like it's cool. It's a cool little piece of hardware. I wish I
So
had an advanced one, but I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I wasn't know if you were in the cool kids club. Um, So I kind of wanted to just do a conversation around because it's always a big deal when a new console
Yeah,
comes out. It
yeah,
opens up the door for new games. Although I think by and large the technology jumps have been more about like frame rates and some optimization lately. Like when we were growing up, it seemed like every console jump was this giant leap in graphics and whatnot,
yeah,
which really hasn't quite been the case. But I figured if there was a guy to talk to about Nintendo and the Switch 2, you would be that dude.
yeah, totally.
Uh,
It's been a wild ride. It's very polarizing right now. I would say the
is it
entire
really?
Nintendo community. It's very polarizing. Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we start
Um, you
there?
know,
I'm not as plugged into the Nintendo community as some of the other ones, so I'm kind of curious why this is the
yeah.
case.
Yeah. So, just like you were saying, generational, using that term, generational leaps that we're used to, Wii to Wii U, GameCube to Wii, and Nintendo to Super Nintendo, Super Nintendo to N64. Those are huge leaps, right? So, a lot of people were expecting a big leap from Switch to Switch 2, when in fact, it's really not that at all. It's a pro version of the Nintendo Switch that plays all the old games, literally looks the same, just has, a couple bells and whistles that makes it run a little bit faster. They've been working on it behind the scenes since 2019, as Nintendo does, right? Like that's exactly what they do. Take the Nintendo 3DS, for example. Do you remember how many iterations that thing had, right?
Hmm.
Had the Nintendo 3DS, then the people didn't like the 3D, it was hurting their eyes, so they made a Nintendo 2DS, right? Then they made a Nintendo 2DS XL. They made a Nintendo 3DS XL. They made the new Nintendo 3DS XL, right? That was their final thing, which was like the pro version of all of it. So, like, if you look at Nintendo's history, that's exactly what they do. They make multiple iterations of the same thing in that same generation.
Yeah.
So, right now, it's hey, here's the pro version of the Nintendo Switch, and we're gonna be charging you $450 for it without tax.
Or
So
tariff. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's the polarizing thing. The more educational Nintendo fans can see right through that as it being, a cash grab, right? Same thing with like the Nintendo Switch Lite, the Nintendo Switch OLED version. Like people didn't necessarily need those. We had a base Nintendo Switch and it was fine. So people are seeing through it, but the uneducated Nintendo fans or people who like video games, they think it's the next thing, right? They think we've had Switch for like 8, 9 years now. They think Switch 2 is the next generational leap. So people are going nuts about it. When in fact, if you just like lift up the sheet, lift up the cover, you're going to see that they're just really milking $450 out of us for Mario Kart, for a brand new Donkey Kong game. But the real kicker on that one is the concept of simultaneous releases. If you remember, on Nintendo Wii, we had The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess
Hmm.
simultaneously releasing on GameCube and Wii, right? To not exclude anyone. And then they did the same thing for Breath of the Wild on Wii U and Switch. So right now, their launch title isn't going to be that dual release because they need to sell the system to make money, right? But the big kicker about that is like multiple games have already been announced for dual release, such as the new Metroid Prime 4, such as the brand new Pokemon Legends Z to A game that everyone's hyped up about. Those are going to be dual release. And then of course, when you buy it on Nintendo Switch 1, you could play it on Nintendo Switch 2 with better graphics, better frame rate, all that stuff, which is, I mean, we're in 2025. That frame rate, that should be standard. So that's kind of where it's polarizing the community. It's, Nintendo, you already know that you're going to dual release this, but you're making a new Mario Kart exclusive, a new Donkey Kong game exclusive, so that I have to shell out $500 for it. Versus, the people who just like idly buy, I got money to spend, whatever. Here
Sure.
Nintendo, you can do no wrong. Take the $500. I want my Mario Kart. I want my DK. And that's just kind of the way that the future of Nintendo is going right now. It's very very like money based, and I would say like cash grabby almost.
Mm.
It's an interesting time to be a Nintendo fan. Let's just say that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
you got a lot on your mind. Um,
Oh, I do.
well, that's why you're here. So I think that uh, ooh, Nintendo's kind of in a difficult spot because they have chosen over the past several iterations of their console to not go toe to toe like power wise with Xbox and PlayStation. So
Yeah.
that's already putting them. All right, babe, I'm gonna put you down. Sorry. There you go. That's already putting them sort of at a disadvantage that they happened to overcome with the Switch in a very like meaningful way.
Right.
And that actually kind of caught me off guard. I don't know what it was about the Switch. I think the portability obviously was a big part, but
Yeah.
you can't deny that the price. Oh, there's your cat.
Yeah. This is Howell.
How
Hi, boy.
I'm sure Pumpkin will make an appearance here. Um,
Oh, I hope so.
or do you want? Now I'm getting bugged for treat time, so I'll finish my thought and let you
Oh,
talk, and
you
I'll go
got
treat
treat
time.
time too, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
But my grander point is like it's sort of a little bit easier to justify we'll say a lower frame rate or lower graphics resolution when your device is $300 or whatever.
Right.
Once you're at 450, I mean you're right at Xbox Series X and PS5 territory. And I'm very curious when Digital Foundry gets a hand on um, their unit because they'll do a little cat butt there. They'll do a breakdown looking at speed and performance. But from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like the Switch 2 is even, it's maybe comparable to like in between a Series S and X. It doesn't even seem like it's on the PS5 tier in terms of
Yeah.
power and performance.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not aware of it. $450 for a thing
Yeah.
that's not as strong as the PS5, that's going to probably be their thing that lasts for the next 4 or 5 years. That seems like a rough starting point. Am I misreading it? Am I just missing something?
No, you're really on cue for that one. You're exactly right on it. The whole concept of, them claiming next gen, right? When it's really not. I mean, if you take a look at the graphics comparisons, if you take a look at frame rates and everything like that, it's not even up to PS4 standards. Like that's the sad thing,
Oh,
right?
really? Okay.
It's not even up to PS4. And if you look at the graphics, it's like here's a side by side of Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild on Switch 1 and Switch 2. And it's like it's one of those spot the difference because it's so similar that you can't even tell. So like that's the thing. And that's what I said. Like the uneducated fans of Nintendo, they're gonna get it because it's two, it's the next one, right? The parents that their kids nag about getting the next Nintendo Switch, right? But like people who are educated and can see through that stuff, you're gonna say like, well, why aren't you actually caught up to PlayStation 5 or Xbox? It's just not a thing. So yeah, it's quite the interesting concept for $450, which is the new standard. And yeah, don't get me started on like game keys and DRM, man. Like that's another thing too.
Oh, sure. Oh, we're going to talk game
Really.
pricing for sure as well.
Okay, yeah, yeah, let's do that.
We got a lot of folks in the chat. Feel free if you want to, you can ask questions. Either of myself about GDEX, about the show, or of course for Abdallah, our special guest. So feel free to throw stuff in the chat. I'm monitoring that. Yeah, I think the general. So I predominantly play on PlayStation 5 now. I've got a PS5 Pro that I bought. I've really enjoyed it. It's not knocking my socks off or anything. But I think when historians write the story of this generation, I think that it's going to kind of be mild disappointment. Maybe the PS5, Xbox Series X were supposed to be 60 frames per second, full 4K, and very few titles have managed to hit that, if any. And
Yeah.
now, of course, we have like PSSR for AI upscaling and things. But it just seems like we kind of had a generation that was a little bit of a bump, but didn't hit. I mean, even on the boxes, I think they actually got rid of it. I'm looking for my PS5 box, but on the original PS5 boxes, I think it said like 8K on the box, like up to
Mm.
8K,
Yeah.
and there's no 8K titles, like really,
Right. Yeah.
So, and then of course, there's maybe you can call it an unfair comparison with the PC Master Race because we've had these
Right.
big jumps in graphics cards over the past 5 years, which I think is an unfair comparison in the fact that if you're going to spend 4 or 5 grand on a PC, like you would hope it would outperform a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, better.
But I'm just curious on your take. I mean, is this going to put Nintendo in the position? It seems like people are excited. I don't know what pre-orders are looking like or whatever. But is this going to put them in a position to be, let's say we see a 2026 PS6?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. According to Nintendo, they said that they've had over 2.2 million pre-orders in Japan alone. And those were applications. Like people, hey, I want an application to pre-order the next Nintendo Switch, right? And so it's an inflated number, sure. And then again, it really comes down to like how knowledgeable are you in hardware versus, oh, this is the next Nintendo Switch. I've been playing Switch for 2 years or 8 years or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
want the new one, right? You can't really tell who those people are because they're not vocal. So if Nintendo's claiming 2.2 million pre-orders right over there, like that's crazy. They have a software forecast of 45 million Switch 2 software units too, which is insane. The total exceeds Switch's first year of software sales, right? The entire year of Switch's first year, they're expecting that forecasting like right off the bat. What else are they saying? They're expecting to sell 15 million Switch 2 units by March of 2026, aiming to match the
15
original
million?
Switch's.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Aiming to match the original Switch's launch year performance. But yeah, I don't know how tariffs are going to affect that. I have no idea. This is just straight out of their financial summary. They had a financial briefing not too long ago. Yeah. Other than that, they're saying what tariff assumptions. They want to really focus on like their subscriptions. There's a new thing called Game Chat where you can press a button on the Nintendo Switch and then like literally have Discord, like what we're doing over here. They're
Yeah.
doing their own kind of Discord at like a very, very slow frame rate. It's very, very knockoff. It's like baby's first Discord attempt kind of a
I
deal. Actually, second, man, like second because Wii U tried to do it and they failed miserably.
Yeah.
So they're
I
trying to do something like
definitely
that
I
too.
saw the Paul Rudd teaser trailer that
Yeah.
came out, and when they were showcasing the chat, I was like, did they record this at a bad frame rate? Like, why are you putting this in your, and
Yes.
I guess you're telling me that is the frame rate.
That is correct.
So
And
it
that was
wasn't
my
that's
first thing. So you see again, like we're educated, we're in the scene, we can see when something's not good.
yeah.
Like instantaneously, it clicks in our head. So like that frame rate is like what, 20 frames a second, maybe. Webcam from 1999 called, said, "Hey, good to see you again." Like that's kind of the thing, right? And so like they're also really trying to. Oh, I didn't even mention this. They're doing GameCube online now,
hmm
which is kind of like we've had Nintendo online with NES, Super Nintendo, and 64, but we haven't had GameCube yet. And so, how old is GameCube? Like, I don't know, 20, 30 years old at
Yeah, I
this
think it
point?
was it released in
And
96, I think. 95, 95,
something
96.
like that. Right, right. So like GameCube, it's like it's really just preying on
Oh,
the
sorry,
nostalgia
2001.
factor.
2001. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so at least 25 years old, right?
I was thinking of N64.
Um, exactly. So they're preying on that nostalgia factor because like people our age, we grew up with GameCube. We love that. But like, okay, these are old 25-year-old games. You couldn't put it on Switch 1. Oh no, forbid that. We need another reason for them to go through and spend $450 on this new console. So we're going to put it exclusively on the Switch 2. So like those things are just like they're flipping off toggles in my mind and like triggers that
Mm.
are just like, "Really? Did you have to do that?" Like I can see through that. So like
That
that's what they're really planning on is that selling that membership to you so you have access to GameCube, so you have access to this game chat, you have access to this Nintendo Music, all those things to appeal to not just the core gamers like us, but appealing to everyone who I guess can't see through them,
yeah. Well,
which
that's a,
is really bonkers. Yeah,
you mentioned the GameCube thing. That's something I've just kind of in the back of my mind. I've always like, why is it taking so long to get their emulation for previous software on? And
yeah,
maybe there's some design engineering thing that I'm just not aware of, but there are emulators on PC that run well enough. And so it seems strategically like because what I'm leading you towards is third party
yeah,
support, and the Switch for all of its like love from fans is I think suffering from third party support because if you're making a game, so I'm a game developer. If we're making a game, we're spending the time and the money to make something for like PS5 and Xbox, right? It's not just like you said, flipping a switch and putting it on Nintendo Switch, pun intended, I guess. Like when you have such high differentials in power and
yeah,
ability, you have to spend a lot of time like down resing your graphics and retesting everything, and that's why the Switch. It's such a big deal when like CD Projekt Red's like, we're gonna release The Witcher on Switch or whatever. 8 years after it came out, like
yeah.
it's a big deal because it takes so much time to do that. When in essence the computers are such vastly different power with what you're telling me about the Switch 2, it seems like we're not going to have alleviated that problem. And so it's going to come back down again to what is the first party support for the new cool experiences on the Switch, unless I'm reading the room wrong, but I don't think I am.
You're not. Like, first party support is a Mario Kart game that is overhyped. It doesn't seem all that great. And a brand new DK game. Like those, that's your first party. And third party, like, hey, they announced Elden Ring. Whoa, that's really cool. How many years later we're getting Elden Ring on Nintendo Switch 2? Like, people play that game. And if you
Hmm.
wanted to play that game, you probably odds are you already did. Like, I guess it's a tribute to how strong the console is now, which is fine, right? Like, hey, it can run Elden Ring, so maybe third party developers don't have to worry too much about downgrading their game so that you can play it on Switch 2. So things will sell. I mean, like old developers will definitely port over their stuff to try to make a quick buck off of the new wave of people who are upgrading their current consoles. But yeah, I think I don't know. It seems a little late at this point where Nintendo's trying to catch up to a PS4, which is like Nintendo, man. Like you've never been in the race for power. So where's the innovation, right? Did this system really need to come out? And I honestly think that no, it didn't need to come out, right?
Do you think
Because
if
like
Do you think if this had
yeah,
been
I
released
think
as
that
a Switch Pro, would that have alleviated some of the conversations that are going on?
no, like honestly, I think that like they should have okay, if I was Nintendo right now, like obviously you want it's time. Nintendo Switch has been around for like almost 9 years, whatever the time frame might be. Sure, work on something brand new, but like actually make it something brand new, you know? Don't reuse parts, don't reuse the name, like make it something different. And like that's the thing that I'm struggling with is like I think the system's pointless because could you have made the Mario Kart for Nintendo Switch 1? Yeah, you absolutely can. Could you make the DK game for Nintendo Switch 1? Yeah, you can. All the third-party games that are coming over here, a lot of them are remakes. You got a Bravely Default game from Square Enix. Yeah, that's a 3DS game. Okay, like we've remastered
Yeah.
3DS games on Nintendo Switch. Locking GameCube, literally 25-year-old games. You think you need a more powerful system to play that? You don't. Like, so that's the hard part for me. It's the hard pill to swallow is I just think it's pointless and I think it's a cash grab because they are stale. And maybe their creativity side is a little lacking since they had new management over there. That's, hey, the new president is a businessman. How do we make money? Oh, how have we done it in the past? What did we do in the previous generation? Oh, we launched a pro version of the 3DS. Okay, well let's do that for Switch. And let's start working on it 6 years ago and then just work on the launch right now. It's I don't know. Nintendo's, I think, like, for being a fan and being in the space covering it for, over 13, 14 years and a long lifetime fan, I think they're, like, really not doing so hot. And it shows right now, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. But,
Well,
yeah.
that kind of goes back to, I guess, what I was mentioning in the beginning, which is they're in a difficult spot because what you have with Nintendo right now, as we sit, is the Switch, which is a portable device, which is unlike the Xbox and it's the closest comparison is probably like the Steam Deck or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you've got that's a functionality that doesn't exist with other competitors. And you would have the Nintendo brand, which obviously I think is generally very well regarded. And then I think that you have a sort of design ability and sensibility. I still think Nintendo makes really good games, like their first party titles in general, right? I think if you put most Nintendo games on the line of games that come out, they tend to sit at the top, whereas
Yeah.
a lot of stuff coming out on PlayStation and Xbox is not that great, right?
Correct.
However, if you want to start competing in another way, that kind of means you need to do another set top box, which then means you need to compete on power, which puts you back in the ring against Xbox and PlayStation. And right now, PlayStation's dominating. I don't know if you know, but there's rumors that Xbox may not even create a physical next console. So, just rumors. We'll see what that looks like. But I feel like, and I guess I'm curious your thoughts. Like, if you just move away from like sort of Switch style design into a standard set top box, what does Nintendo really have at that point that differentiates it from, PlayStation's going to have way more third party support than Nintendo is, at least initially.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I am curious. You mentioned all the like little pieces because that was a conversation. Digital Foundry, again, a great website on YouTube. They did a
Yeah.
breakdown of the PS5 Pro, and they started looking at the specs for that, and they're like, it became obvious that Sony had a problem where they could only make it so much more powerful because at that point they'd have to re-engineer the architecture. Like the PS5's
Yeah.
architecture just created a situation where they couldn't make it more powerful. It was CPU stuck,
Yeah.
and that put them in a rough spot. It sounds like Nintendo might be in a similar situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, it depends on that technology, right? And like what technology they have to do it. And, they have a lot of success with the dock in, play it in TV mode, and then take it portable. Like that's really never been done before. It's legendary. It's groundbreaking. And that's what made the Switch so successful. You have the PS5 and yeah, you have the PS5 Portal. I have one of those and it's okay, but you can't really take it on the go because you need to be locked in on the same internet as your PS5.
Yeah.
So no one's done that. No one's done that besides Nintendo. So like the question is, where do you go from here with another a real successor to the Nintendo Switch, like a next generational leap? Like uh, I mean, there's no way that you can go back, right? I feel that Nintendo's stuck because they have something that works so well. Take it on the go or play it on the big screen. Like you can't just go back to playing it on the big screen because then people will be upset about that. So like again, I don't get paid the big bucks. I'm not the creative lead for the next generation of Nintendo Switch, so I don't have the answer on what they're going to potentially do next. I just think that this sidestep, maybe slight like quarter step upwards to copy what PS5 Pro did, is I mean, I don't want it, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it. With my job, like, I cover all the latest games. So, yeah, I did wait in line for a pre-order because I do have to play Mario Kart to make sure
Sure.
that whenever people are out here, they're watching my channel, they can have a general understanding of, oh, have my eyes been open to not spending $500 on Mario Kart? or, or am I going to get it because it's Mario Kart and I freaking love Mario Kart, right? Like, that's the thing. So, I don't
Yeah.
know where they're going to go, but I think they're stuck. I think they're creatively stuck, and I think that the power output and new console design are in like a fighting phase right now, where we don't quite like they're not both working together, right?
Yeah.
One side is like, hey, we love the portability factor, we love the dock factor, and then it's like, oh, but we want more power. How do we work both worlds? And it's like, okay, well, the answer is a slightly better version of what we already have, which that's par for the course with the competition and with Nintendo's track record of re-releasing the same console multiple times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might be like if the numbers are selling and they're bringing in money, it might just be they found their niche and that's where they're going to sit and they're going to just kind of wait and see what happens. Um, it is kind of this is just a thing I'm going to say, and we can
Yeah.
take it wherever. But every so often, like every 4 or 5 years, a conversation comes around where it's like, what if Apple bought Nintendo? And that always kind of comes out, and like Apple's never really shown any interest in buying Nintendo. I think there was some talk about it way back in the day when Nintendo, like the 2000s, when Nintendo was like really faltering. Apple was thinking about maybe buying it. But the reason I say that is because Apple right now, if you look at mobile devices, Apple
Mhm.
has the best power to performance and battery usage ratio of any company anywhere in the world by far.
Yeah.
Like you can get the new MacBook Pros, the Pro version, the most powerful of their laptops, can run for 18 to 24 hours on a single charge. It's
Yeah.
wild what they're able to
Oh yeah.
do. Um, and that seems like if that's the direction Nintendo is trying to go, Apple might have a lot of tech that could help them out in that regard, I don't think that they would, but it's just kind of an interesting thought experiment. Uh, but yeah, I think to your larger point, if they're making a jump and that jump is you're claiming is on par with a PS4. So their big jump is already generationally behind where their
Yeah.
competitors are going to be in a couple of years by 2 generations. That does
Yeah.
not seem like a great place to be. And then I will mention something because you said this where you're like, you play the games, you're not an engineer or whatever, but you do have a beat on what people are thinking and what people are playing. And I tell my students all the time, as a game developer, gamers are great at telling you what they don't like about a game. They're terrible
Mhm.
about telling you how to fix it, right? So you may not be an engineer, you may not have the solution to that
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you're probably worth listening to in terms of what people are saying and what folks like you are. Like my Switch is sitting. I got the Animal Crossing Switch. It's sitting over there on
Sure.
my couch. I have not played it in 4 years, right?
Why? Why play it?
Yeah, and
And you didn't miss out on much.
yeah, I just
Right.
my PlayStation backlog alone is would
Yeah. Yeah.
if I stopped buying games today, I probably have 2 or 3 years worth of games to play just on my backlog alone. So I do ask myself like, why come back to the Nintendo? And sometimes they'll pull me in with like a Super Mario RPG remake or something.
Hey, that was a great game.
I it
I
was
loved it.
yeah, I love that game. If they knock one out of the park and they're like, we're gonna redo Chrono Trigger or something. All right, you got me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my favorite game ever. But other than that, I'm playing Fallout 4 right now. I can't even imagine trying to play Fallout 4 and that game's 10 years old, right?
And it's amazing. It's really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
I get the Cyberpunk and the Witchers. Like, there's no way that those aren't like completely bastardized versions, are they? I don't. It just doesn't feel right.
I've never played Cyberpunk. I've heard the stories about it through launch and all that stuff,
Oh,
but
it's
it's
so
coming to
good.
Nintendo Switch.
Yep,
Yeah, it's coming to Nintendo Switch too. So like, I'm excited for it.
it's so good.
That's great. It's more stuff that people can play, which is amazing. But to go on your previous note, I think you just called out on Nintendo's next console, a laptop. Hear me out. Hear
I'm
me out.
Let's do it. Let's brainstorm. We're in blue sky here.
Yeah, yeah. Rival the price and no, no, don't rival the price. Rival the power of a MacBook Pro. Thin laptop, boom. Uses all the old Switch peripherals. And like now you have it on the go and you have a huge screen. You could fit it in a backpack. Like that's amazing. You don't have to partner with Apple. I mean, partner with whoever you need. But that would be generational, right?
Yeah,
It would be whatever Nintendo laptop, whatever you want to creatively call it. Like that would be I would be behind that
I,
because it's like, oh, cool. Like here's the specs on it. This is it. It runs this, it does that. You can connect it to the TV via HDMI port, right? It has
sure.
battery life of 24 hours, rather than the dinky 7 hours of a Nintendo Switch. That would be the winner for me, honestly. A laptop. You just set it right over
I
here and
mean,
it's so thin.
if you're going that
Dude,
direction, why don't you just have the next Nintendo Switch on an iPad? I know that's wild too, but
it's pretty wild.
you could create all the peripherals. I mean, look at this. This is when we were growing up. Like, can
You
you
know what?
imagine a
That's
device like this? But like,
right.
what if your ecosystem sat on top of an iPad? Now I know that's scary because then you've lost control of your form factor and things like updates and like Apple would have a lot of control. Apple and Google would have a lot of control, but
Yeah.
you would definitely. I mean, that iPad, that's a Pro, whatever it all is
Yeah.
probably.
It's more powerful than a Switch.
Yeah, and that thing lasts me 20 hours. Like it's
Yeah, it's
wild.
amazing. That'd be so cool, right? You don't necessarily need Joy-Con or anything like that. Just make it a little iPad or laptop. That's great. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think we've already figured it out just
We
because
solved it.
we're
We
in
solved it.
tech and we know what's good, right? Don't give us more or less the same and change it up. It's been borderline 10 years, whatever.
Yeah. Well, it definitely seems like the Switch 2 is a evolutionary part rather than revolutionary, which isn't always a bad thing necessarily, but I just feel like it's maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the target market for it anymore. Maybe there's other folks. If you say that it's selling, if they claim it's selling like it's selling, then who am I to get in the way, right? But that does bring us, just in the interest of time, to the next part of this, the next side of this coin, which is the game pricing, which I know
Yeah.
has set the world on fire. I'm curious to hear your thoughts before I give mine, because we may have contradictory or we may be in line. Let's see.
Yeah, I think Nintendo is the first one that's kind of like taking the bullet on this one. As far as being the like historically known for the cheaper alternative for families, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation and Xbox, they've had expensive games for years. That's their brand, right? Because you're paying for the power, you're paying for all that other stuff. But now Nintendo's like, oh, hold on. We're also powerful. You know, we're PS4 power over here, and like, all right, we're gonna go $80 games, right? Like that's it. That's on the high end. The different games are going to be varying, maybe $60, maybe $70. Doug Bowser, CEO of Nintendo America, has said it himself. They're going to be using value pricing in order to find out what the best price is for each of these games. Nintendo's always used value pricing. It's not anything new. You take a
Sure.
look at a KB Toys or a Toys R Us flyer from 1990 where it shows Diddy Kong Racing for $40 and like Mario Kart for $50, right? That's a thing. So that whole concept of games being $80 based on what we dictate is just a way of saying, hey, Nintendo's already been doing this. We're just putting that reasoning in the forefront. And unfortunately, like they're here to make money. Nintendo's here to make money. I wish it was a thing where you can bypass the $80 price tag and maybe have like a $60 price tag if you buy digital only. Which digital doesn't cost any of the marketing, the manufacturing, the game cartridge, the 64 gigabyte game cartridges for
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo Switch 2, which are super expensive to produce apparently. Like, yeah,
You know
you
what's
should
kind of
have a
wild,
discount on
isn't
that.
it? I think it wasn't it. CG Project Red said they're going to release a disc version of Cyberpunk. I think because they said physical media is important to them, and so they're going to actually release one, which I thought was kind of
Yeah,
wild.
I mean, there's also like companies like Limited Run who do
Yeah,
physical releases of games, which is great. Love
totally,
that.
totally.
But yeah, I think that right now it's like, okay, we're used to inexpensive games for $50, $60. I remember when Tears of the Kingdom was like priced at $70. For the first time, it was like the most highest expensive Nintendo Switch game ever. Because, it's so big, development costs, X, Y, and Z. People were in uproar. They're like, well, I don't want to pay $10 more for this. But like that's kind of like where we're going as a generation. If you're not paying $80 for it, you're probably going to be paying some microtransaction that's built into it, skins, DLC, all
Yeah,
that stuff, and
yeah.
it's going to add up. And that's just kind of what they're capitalizing on. They're like, all right, this is kind of how things are. Of course, people can blame tariffs, they could blame the government, they could blame inflation, all of that stuff. But like, are we making any more money in our current jobs right now to keep up with inflation or those price hikes? We're not.
Sure.
So, like, I think that Nintendo would benefit from like biting the bullet on this one. And like, do you necessarily need to make an extra $10 on these people when you're forcing them to buy a $500 console? Probably not. So like,
Yeah.
and it's also the concept of, like Reggie back in the day, two CEOs ago of Nintendo America, or no, previous one. I'm sorry,
Yes, the
the previous
previous one.
CEO of Nintendo America. Yeah,
We've got Bowser now, right? He's still in there.
yeah, exactly. Doug Bowser is the right one. But like he fought Nintendo Japan for the pack-in title of Wii Sports, right? Like he wanted that to be free because like that's the way it is. It's going to be so much better. So they fought head to head on like, hey, our market needs something out of the box. Right? And like that's not there anymore. Doug Bowser didn't do that when it came to the pack-in title called a Welcome Tour, which is like a little tech demo of the Nintendo Switch 2. They're selling that. They have the audacity to sell that for $10,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And it's a tech demo. What are you doing? Like that's the
Sure.
thing.
I
And
think
so it's
even
just yeah,
PlayStation had the
yeah.
Astro game for the PlayStation
Yeah,
5,
Astrobot.
which was a
Huh,
tech demo. Well, that was a really cool game.
exactly. Yeah, and it was
And
pack-in.
you definitely needed it for you needed it for the Wii because with the motion controls and stuff, it was just a different experience. Like you needed to give the customers something that they could do as soon as they opened the box to understand even what the
Yeah,
motion controllers were for, how it even worked,
exactly.
right? Oh yeah, I totally hear you.
Yeah, just everything is just so like money grubby, greedy in this
Yeah,
entire launch, and like I said earlier from the very beginning, like the uneducated people who don't see this stuff, they're gonna see that it's just the next Nintendo. I love Nintendo,
yeah.
but like people who are opening up their eyes to it, like you can see all of the little things that are just adding up, and it's just like money, 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 and like ugh, it just leaves a weird taste in my
Yeah.
mouth.
Well, only if there was
But
someone
yeah,
that
what was
was
your opinion on the price hike?
sure,
Are
sure.
we aligned in that? You think it's justified?
I'm gonna push back a little bit, but I was gonna
Yeah, go.
joke that like if only somebody was willing to run for senator in federal office that could talk about these things,
Yeah,
it'd be
right.
wild. So I'm gonna push back slightly in the sense that as old timers like you and I, we've seen these price increases, and you know everyone loses their fucking mind about it. But the reality is like we didn't change from like the $60 price point in like 2006. So it's been about 20 years. And then we started to see some 70-ish dollar games maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. But really, we've been paying roughly the same amount of money for video games for about 20 years. And so if you think about every other product that sort of suffers from inflation, like inflation just always happens, right? We're
Yeah.
going to try to do inflation at about 2% a year. That's pretty wild considering the budgets of games have just shot through the roof. That the cost we have managed somehow in our industry to keep the price of games at a standard rate, which is pretty amazing compared to a lot of other industries. I mean, look at like movies, right? The cost of a movie ticket right now is, you know, pretty high. You're paying $13 to $15 a ticket. So I think that there is room for larger prices, particularly as the expectation of gamers on what a game should be has increased. Like the base level of expectations is pretty high right now. Now that being said, there's a justification that needs to occur if you're charging that rate. Like if you're charging $80 for a substandard product, there's going to be fairly, I think, some criticism on that. But I am kind of interesting because they're doing two things. One is the price increase itself. And I want to talk about mobile games for a second because in the first 10 years or whatever of mobile games, it was a race to the bottom. Everyone was trying to do the cheapest games possible and then free to play came. And we just ended up with this just dumpster truck of nonsense BS on the mobile space, just garbage games, right? And then Nintendo released Nintendo Run. And I think was it $10, I think, $8 or $10, whatever it was. And everyone was like, oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
God,
yeah.
$10 for a mobile game. That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But what it ended up doing, it reset, and you can argue for better or worse, but it reset the expected price for quality premier products. And then we started seeing more quality games come out on mobile at a price point of 5, 10, even $20. And so I think that it created a lane, like Nintendo opened up a lane for premier priority products to come out in the mobile space. If you were willing to pay that money, you could get really good quality, polished games on mobile. That was just hard to do before. So in that case,
Yeah.
I think it's good. The other thing that's really interesting for me is that they're finally doing a price differentiation between physical and retail games, or physical and digital, which is something I've been talking to my students about for a decade. Because if you look at just basic economics 101,
Hmm.
the physical product should always cost more than the digital product because of the effort it takes to
Correct.
make it and ship it and distribute it and whatever. But nobody was willing to do that because nobody wanted to piss off the big box retailers, your Walmarts and your Best Buys, your Targets, all of them. Nobody wanted to undercut those with a digital price point. So what that signals to me is that digital sales have become so ubiquitous. It's the primary driver. And maybe I'm curious in chat if we've got people in chat, do you buy predominantly physical or do you buy predominantly digital games? I'd be curious what people say. Because Nintendo was willing to throw down the gauntlet and was like, hey, we are willing to take whatever, if Walmart gets mad at us or, Best Buy gets mad at us or whatever, this is just the way they're doing. I think it's obviously a way to start curtailing physical games and moving more and more people towards digital games. which opens up a whole conversation about, you know, game history and preservation and things like that. And we could have that conversation another day. We can do that over a beer at GDEX.
Sure.
But the way I look at it after my rambling here is that if we're going to move to an $80 price point, okay. But I want to feel, and this is what I think you've been hitting at a lot on your end, is I want to feel like I'm not being taken advantage of, right? I don't want to see a $70 product sold to me at $80. And then on
Hmm.
top of that, there's season passes and DLCs and
Yep.
skins where it's just like, oh, you were going to do this anyway at $70. You just took the extra $10 and ran with it. Like,
Right.
that's what I don't want to feel like.
And that's my entire feeling on watching the trailers for Mario Kart World, the new Mario Kart, watching the trailers for the new Donkey Kong game. They are literally taking the money and running. Before watching the announcement trailer, I was with my community. We made a bingo card. Hey, what do you want out of the new Mario Kart? Oh, we want, 24 player local. We want story mode. We want X, Y, and Z. So we made this bingo card of all the things that we want to justify. We didn't know it was going to be $80, but and then once the trailer was done, we're like, wait a second, we didn't get a quarter of the things that we wanted, and they're
Mm,
charging us $80.
really?
Like, that's the hard part for me. It's the hard pill to swallow. And so your sentiment is exactly my entire Nintendo Switch 2 sentiment, right?
Okay.
Like, I don't mind paying $450. I don't mind paying $80. There has to be a value. There has to be everything I ever wanted in this game, right? Not just, oh, it's the new best thing. You like Nintendo, you're going to bug your parents about it, and they're going to buy it for you, right? And we're just going to take advantage of that. So yeah, that's you hit it right on the head, man. That's what it has to be, right?
Mm,
Again,
yeah.
don't mind paying the extra premium for it, but it better be a dang good game versus more or less the same stuff with, not a lot of bells and whistles as we wanted, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, totally. I'm getting a lot of people saying in chat that physical is what they're moving to or are doing. Yeah, I feel you. And I think too, as a fan, just speaking emotionally as a fan of something, it always stings a little bit more when you feel like they're not looking out for you, like they are trying to take advantage of your loyalty, and whatnot. And I think that the one thing for all its many faults, I think one of the things that capitalism is good at is punishing people who overreach. Now the problem is it also incentivizes people to overreach and be greedy. But we've seen this before. I mean, I'm a big Apple guy. I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s when Apple was creating substandard products and charging a lot for them. Apple fans came out in droves and like buried. It was one of the reasons they brought Steve Jobs back, because the management at the time was just totally, destroying all the goodwill and everything that had been created by the fans. And fans felt that they were being taken advantage of, and they were. We saw this with the PlayStation 3. I don't know if you remember when the PlayStation 3 was announced and it was like at a $600 price point at E3, and journalists were like, that's $600 in 2005, right? $2005,
Yeah,
right? So that's
that's
probably the
kind of a
equivalent of
lot.
like $900 something, 950 today.
Yeah.
And journalists were like, I mean, that's a lot of money. Do you expect people to pay for this? And I don't know if you remember what their response was. PlayStation's official person who got asked this question was like, well, I guess they'll just have to get a second job then. Like, can you
I
imagine
mean,
that as a marketing response?
look. Doug Bowser said kind of the same thing. People pushed him on the price. And he's like, hey, you know what? If you can't afford it, we've got something for you, and it's called the Nintendo Switch 1.
Yeah.
So buy that. Right? Like, it's the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
they're there for money. They just want the money. And so,
Yeah.
instead of like making money on hardware sales and really cutting us a bone, on the actual price of the games, like, it's just, yeah. And then we didn't even touch the DRM. We don't touch base on DRM and the game
Oh
key
yeah. Do you
cards.
want to talk about that real fast? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So a DRM is the concept of
Well, I know
digital
what
rights.
DRM is, but yeah, I
Yeah,
just
yeah, digital rights management, or you,
mhm.
like you own something physically. We know all about physical games. You know, we've asked the chat, you had yourself. You know, we love having something physical. But right now, in order to cut costs and, I mean, maybe hide under the guise of, oh, the developers need more than 64 gigabytes to program their game, to put it all on one cartridge. They're doing something called game key cards, where you are essentially going to get a physical box, and inside the box is going to be like a hollowed out Nintendo Switch cartridge without any of the real like components that makes a game what it is. And
Mhm.
so when you put it into your Nintendo Switch, you're going to be prompted to go online and download the 30, 40 gigabyte, whatever the length or the size of the game is. Very similar to some practices where you open up a physical box and there's like a little piece of paper with a download code.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. So Nintendo Switch is doing that, but like a half step up, which is going to be like an empty card that as soon as you put it into your Nintendo Switch, it is going to essentially be a key to downloading the full game. So, I mean, the concept of that being, hey, imagine you buying a car, but the dealership owns the key, right? And so, like, oh no, no, the dealership owns the engine of the car, but they give you the key to it. So, like, whenever you want to buy, something like that, and like you just insert the key, you can play it whenever you want to. But like, if the engine breaks, or let's say support for Nintendo Switch 2 in 20 years just gets
Yeah.
wiped off the face of the earth, like the Nintendo 3DS eShop, the Wii U eShop, the Virtual Console, all those are
Mhm.
gone. Then you essentially lose everything.
Yeah.
So people are at a backlash for the game key cards because they want to save the digital media, they want to save physical media, but I mean, there's a Nintendo saying, "Hey, you know what? It's 64 gigabytes is a limit, and some games are larger than that, so we don't really want to strain the developers on just 64 gigs." So like I don't know. It's a really weird means of doing a launch with games, and it's very concerning. I would say so. Like I'm a physical media person, but like my entire Switch library is all digital, and it's a regret that I have. I should have bought the physicals,
Yeah.
because now it's like it's going to be the exact same thing. What happens if Switch One, the eShop, just is gone because they're working on newer and better things? Like I don't have those things. You can't give a digital game to someone, right? Weird.
Sure. Yeah, that is ultimately the issue between physical and digital is when you when you buy digital, you're not buying the game, you're
Yeah.
buying a license to the game and that license can be
Right.
revoked at any time for any reason.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that definitely puts you in a position and again, that goes back to preservation, right? Like you buy a disc. I mean, again, this sounds like old man sitting on porch yelling at clouds kind of thing. But like when we bought Super Nintendo games and N64 games, like that was the game, and that will always
That's
be
right.
the game. And you could take that
That's
game and
right.
put it into your system and play it. And it didn't get updates and whatever. So I mean, that even opens up a question of like, what is the actual version of any game if it keeps getting updated and changed? You know,
Yeah.
the original version of Cyberpunk was a hot friggin' mess. The new version is pretty amazing. So at least we won on that front, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting that in essence, they're just trying to fake the sort of new game opening experience. But it's just a facade behind a digital key. They could have just given you a key, but they want you to feel like you at least got something, I guess.
Again, like it's the educated versus the uneducated, right? You're gonna buy this game and you're gonna say, "Oh, a key card, it works, whatever." But like, fast forward, like, is that worth it? I don't know, man. And then,
Wow.
like you said earlier, with the whole concept of Apple and people being, really upset and revolting against them, Nintendo has a sweet spot, man. They're like, as polarizing as the topic is, you're gonna have half of the people that hate what Nintendo's doing, and then half of the people that just don't care because it's Nintendo, and their parents are gonna buy it for them anyway, and they're just gonna say yes, right? So this like soft boycott, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work because Nintendo already has 75-80% of its fan base in its pocket just based on IPs alone. And if they're saying, "Hey, we're making games for the Nintendo Switch too," like, get left in the dust. If you can't afford it, then oh well, right? Like, nothing's going to stop. Digital key cards, they're not going to stop. That's Nintendo's decision to make that a concept. So, like, if you're going to soft boycott it, like, that's great, but it's going to be for naught because there's going to be a huge vast majority of people who are just going to buy it anyway. And
Yeah.
Nintendo's going to see the amount of sales, and they're going to keep on doing what they're doing because Nintendo fanboys or the uneducated don't really know any different.
Well, on that
It's
note,
rough.
yeah. Well, we'll see because ultimately, I think if the hardware is important, but it also comes down to continual software purchases, and if they can't stay up, the PS6 comes out, let's say 2026 or 2027, and just rocks the house. There's a lot of third party developers that probably just won't mess around porting to the Switch.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. Well, our time is coming to an end together here. I really appreciate you being on the show. Are there ways that people can get a hold of you, follow you, if they are so
Oh yeah,
interested?
absolutely. Well, for starters, come out to GDEX over in Ohio in September.
Yeah,
Let's do that. Let's hang out over there. I'll have my own little space. I'll maybe we'll do a little Nintendo Switch review after 4 months or whatever, how long it's been out. We'll be doing some Mario Kart World there,
yeah.
obviously. But yeah, if you guys are interested in digital media, you guys can just type AbdallahSmash into YouTube or Twitch. You could find me over there. I do daily videos. We do content. We do walkthroughs of all the Nintendo stuff. So yeah, it's a great time. I would love to have you. But ultimately, thank you for just chatting Nintendo Switch 2 with me. It's great to see people that are also in the same space that are a lot more educated and can see through some of the things that were being pushed. So
Well,
very, very happy to be here. Thanks
you
again.
you flatter me, sir. Yeah, the whole purpose of this podcast is I like to invite people who are in the industry, and we can talk about like video games as a business and all that other stuff outside of just do I like games or not. And when I saw the Switch 2 announcement, I was like, I got to get Abdallah on here. I think that would be awesome. So, well,
Yeah.
everybody, thank you. This has been episode 65 of the Sandbox.Space weekly podcast. Reminder again, GDEX is coming up, so you can go to www.thegdex.com to get information and buy tickets. We'll be posting our first phase of the schedule in June and hopefully the final schedule in July. But we're going to have indie games, arcades, all sorts of fun stuff. Sounds like a AbdallahSmash community event of some kind might be in order. We always do the Mario Kart tournament. We'll see if we do the new one or the old one. Well, I guess we'll see how well it's received, and we'll go from there.
Everyone bring your Nintendo Switch 2s, and then
Yeah.
we'll use them.
So yeah, we always do fun things, and then I think we're gonna bring back our boss battles series this year, where we bring in people who like are good or like ranked players at certain games, fighting games or whatever. So we might bring them in. So that should be fun. But that's September 4th through the 7th in beautiful Columbus, Ohio here. So remember that. And then of course, we will be doing this video I put on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again if you need to. I'll send you the link when I get that put up there. But otherwise, thank you all for being a part of it. On behalf of myself, baby girl who is in my lap, Pumpkin who is over there, Abdallah, our special guest, and everybody in the chat. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week.